Okay, shall we get started? Board, are we ready? Great. Um, well, everyone, my name is Corey Johnson, and I am the current board president of Conscious Capitalism San Diego. I'm here with a handful of fellow board members, maybe some advisors too, if they were able to make it on the call today. And it's so great to see a lot of your faces here, and we know that there's absolutely to say a lot of is going on is definitely an understatement right now, but the fact that you are showing up and you signed up and you're here today really says a lot. You know, the uncertainty and the overwhelm can be a lot, but being here, you know, really shows that you are willing and wanting to kind of figure out how to work through this, right? To find some possibilities and to hear and learn and share what you know or want to know as well. And so, and also to do so consciously, you know, in a way that is not only just helpful to yourself, but those that you serve, those that are part of your community too. So thank you again for being here. And it's so great to see a lot of your faces. Our topic today is around leading and persevering through uncertainty. And we at CCSD are really here to support and guide as best as we can, but we absolutely don't know it all. And we don't know what you need or want as well right now too. And so we're here to listen and learn along with you. Michael, who's one of our board members, is going to lead us off and guide us with some questions and some thoughts, but we absolutely want to try and have this as interactive as possible, with allowing people to kind of share and hear and support each other too. Because I think the collective is much more powerful than one individual sharing or knowing or saying something to you all. And so we're here just to learn together, absolutely. Michael, before I hand it off to you to lead us off, just a few housekeeping things. Most of you, I think when you signed up, you are on mute. We'd love for you to stay on mute if you're not talking or chatting, because it just helps with the background noise so we can hear the person who is. If you have a question or do want to share some maybe insights or input, feel free to use the chat box if you can, and or just wait a second and unmute yourself and just say, hey guys, I have a question or I have some information, and we'll go ahead and make sure that we can all work together on this, and hear each other's voices. We are recording this, and we're hoping that Zoom is working. It's been a little glitchy, but we hope that it actually does record, and we can reshare this with all of you here and those who weren't able to make it as well. But besides that, I hope you all we can have a really informative, conscious, caring conversation today, and that's really what we want to do and be here with you to do that. So with that said, I'll put myself on mute, and Michael, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Corey. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to engage in a conversation around really an unprecedented time, and looking to each other to understand how we can lead organizations and contribute in meaningful ways through holding tight to the tenets of conscious capitalism. And so today's conversation is really centered around this. We felt it, the timing of the conversation, to be obviously top of mind, and rather than have a educational event that we do typically where there's someone presenting back to the group, we thought, well, let's look to the community to really drive the conversation. And so today is really designed to be a share and a town hall style, if you will, where we really want to hear from everyone what you're facing, what you're struggling with, some ideas, things you've implemented, challenges that you're experiencing within your organization, whether you are the leader or you're an individual contributor, whatever lens you're looking through. We want to understand what it is you're doing to help lead through these times of uncertainty. And this topic was something that we tossed around last week in the Conscious Capitalism Roundtable, which I'm very privileged and honored to, I guess you could say I lead it more. I'm just there to listen and learn from all the extremely smart and intelligent CEOs and conscious leaders that are a part of that group. And we had a very candid conversation with them around, well, what are they experiencing? What are they facing? And that has been the impetus for doing this event today with the broader community. So I am excited to have several board members here present who are going to participate in the conversation. And of course, everyone is encouraged. If I'm the only one talking for the next 55 minutes, everyone will be very bored. So please, please, please participate, ask questions, find ways to add value, find ways to connect in this time where connection is more important than ever. And so with that, we did create a few concepts that we wanted to talk about. And I just wanted to review those with everyone just so that we're kind of getting in the right mindset of what the intention is for the conversation. But the idea is, right, leading around and persevering through uncertain times. And then specifically as it relates to COVID-19, this idea of managing cultural focus and having appropriate organizational response to this event we're all experiencing. And really that's balancing a denial that some may have versus panicking or being put into a state of paralysis. So how is your organization managing those two extremes? Along with that, I think there's this really interesting conversation that we can have and that I've seen play out around how do you create messaging and behaviors amongst the leadership team when individuals may have a different tolerance for such unforeseen events. Some people are just hardwired to be strong perseverers, and they're not derailed by something even as significant as the event that we're all experiencing, while others are. And so, from an organizational standpoint, how can we create a message that is consistent and is encompassing of that spectrum of experience that everyone might be facing, and really leading through that with optimism and providing an environment where you're recognizing both ends of the spectrum. So those are sort of some of the ideas that we wanted to float around. And of course, questions, concerns, any ideas that you want to add or contribute or maybe aren't even aligned with those two specific items, please do speak up and add your comments to the chat box, or just unmute yourself and chime right in, and we'll kind of just take it from there. So with that, and focusing on sort of this first idea around what's happening inside organizations that you're either leading or working in, how are you seeing your companies respond as a leadership team to creating a message that is consistent with trying to encompass the spectrum of emotions and feelings that everyone might be experiencing? Does anyone have anything they'd like to add to that sort of concept?
I'll go first.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Not going to be shy. Yeah, I think Ken Ruggiero, for those of you who don't know me, chairman and CEO of a 130-person company, with half of us located here in San Diego, the other half in Austin, Folsom, California, and Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So we've been dealing with a few things. We for 4 years we would shut the company down once a year on surprise, and then test our business continuity program, and then we do a survey of our employees and say, hey, how did it go? How productive were you? What would be better? And we got answers like, I wish I had 2 screens. I wish I didn't marry this person. That's a joke. We're getting that one now. So what we never tested was, what if you put like 4 people with screaming kids, or 6 people with multiple people working in a less than 2,000 square foot home, and the whole cul-de-sac is sucking off, a gigabyte of bandwidth from the cable company. Like how does that work for productivity? So we never tested what we're testing now. So there's a few messages that I've been reiterating to the management team, and we do a weekly all hands meeting on Friday, kind of debrief what happened this week and what we're setting up for next week. Instead of Monday, we moved it to Friday, which seems like the management team meets on Monday, but the whole company meets on Friday. So a lot of those individual meetings are happening, and then we kind of do a recap at the end of the week as people head into the weekend, which has seemed to be a good like reverse of what most companies do. Like you get to Friday, you're like, whew, I don't want to talk to anybody. That the employees find a lot of comfort hearing what's happening, especially I have each office report in. So what's going on in Austin and Texas and shelter in place was different than what was going on in California, which was different than what was going on with schools in Sioux Falls. So you can read the news, but when you are trying to get people to work closely together, it's good to get them like kind of understanding that your situation is not the same as the person that you've been working with for years. So one is what I keep saying to everybody is, I opened up the last meeting by asking a question, and I told everyone on all 130 people on the Zoom call, I said, hey, you have to answer this question really, really quickly. Don't overthink it. Just, I'm going to ask a question. Think about your answer. And the question was, what's your productivity level relative to when you were in the office? And everybody came up with a not 100% answer in their head, right? And I said, okay, good. Whatever that number is, I want you to forget your office productivity number. I want you to think about your productivity yesterday. And all I want you to do is think about how can I get a little bit more efficient and a little bit more productive than yesterday, and stop trying to measure your productivity and efficiencies to a world that isn't existing for the last 2 weeks and won't exist for the next 30 to 50 or 60 days. So I guess like relieving our employees of that burden of being inefficient at home and relieving them of that guilt, I think is critical in these, in this last 2 weeks and really the next couple of weeks. And then I think people will be okay. But anyway, so that's some feedback of what we're doing and how we're dealing with some of these new normals.
That's great. And Ken, just a quick follow-up. So with regard to your leadership team and working on a consistent message that's coming from them that's representative of goals position, did you find that you had leaders that struggled with this more so than others, or did everyone come with the same sort of mindset? And was that indicative of the culture you've already worked to build within the business?
Yeah, I'll say for better, not worse, the whole management team, actually 4 of the 6 management team was with me through the last recession.
Okay.
They were junior managers and now they're senior managers. So my message to them was, we've done this before. We've been preparing for events that could, impact higher education, could impact our clients, could impact our students and families. And we were built for this. Not that we want this to happen or at this magnitude, but so telling people who might have been hired last year or might have been hired 3 years ago that the management team has been through a recession in higher ed before. The whole business was created from us being opportunistic in the last recession, and it will not be different this time. And so there's a lot of street cred when you get people sending that message. And the other message that we are all promoting is it's okay not to know the answer. It's not okay to see the glass half empty, because the entire company is looking at a glass half empty now. And now as leaders, they don't need to be reminded about a glass half empty. So I'm not saying, be delusional, not be evasive, not be disingenuous. But I've got people now who are going, like, once you tell them to look for the glass half full, they like come up with like obvious things. You're like, oh yeah, that's obvious. I'm like, fine, say the obvious. This will end. It always ends. There's always opportunities. There's always new ways of thinking things. GM is making respirators. Like, okay. Blue jeans companies are making gowns and masks. So I'm encouraging people to think way outside their box, and the leaders are all stepping up. It's been awesome.
That's great. Thank you. We actually have a question for you, Ken, from McClaw. And if you want to unmute yourself and
feel
free to the question. Is the company addressing a total productivity objective for each week? If you'd like to expand on that, please feel free to do so.
Sure. Short answer, no. We're not quantifying it or trying to put numbers to it. What we're trying to do is HR. We have two people who are dedicated HR professionals. Each week they talk to every single employee, and what they're doing in those conversations is they're saying what's working, what's not, what can we do. Some people have reported the fact that HR calls them once a week and asks them those questions, even if HR can't do anything, they really, really feel that the company's caring, because we do, and we're doing the best we can. So I'd say because part of our business has to report on the 25th of each month, like failure is not an option. If we don't send out investor reports on bond deals, then we're in violation of our service levels. Mm-hmm. No matter why, it just is. So people they wake up they're going to wake up tomorrow trying to get their hands on the data and make sure we met all of our requirements for this month, because everything was working pretty normally in the lead-in. I don't know what's going to happen next month. As soon as this happened, we immediately focused on how are we set up to respond to this, and that was on Monday of 2 Mondays ago. On Tuesday, we said we need to understand all of our downstream vendors. So we got everyone got on the phone for the next 3 days, understanding all of the business continuity programming, all of the work from home, all of the service levels that all of our vendors had to do. And because I said, hey, if we fail because we don't understand what one of our vendors failed to do, shame on us. Like should figure, if they're going to fail, let's just have let's know before they fail, not after they fail. So again, that impacts the productivity. So where people were supposed to be doing their 9-to-5 job, we had them calling all the vendor networks, and we work with some 15 collection agencies and 10 servicers across the country, large trustees who do cash management. So we work with a lot of big and small institutions spread around the U.S. So all of that is done now. So I think the rise in productivity will be what I'm referring to as the new normal, and I think we will start measuring it a little bit more scientifically as we just try and plan our business more effectively and try and resource and understand what the resource constraints are.
That's great. McClaw, who asked the question, is there anything else you'd like to know around that issue? Feel free to unmute yourself.
No, that's a good answer.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
You're welcome.
So I'd like to just pivot quickly to Del. I'm kind of curious, Del, another board member. What are you seeing out in your world as it relates to organizational response in alignment with conscious capitalism tenets?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. It's much the same as that we heard from Ken. And if I could just circle back to one of the things that he said, which I thought was very, very interesting and very important as it relates to leading consciously. He was asking his people questions, what's going on in your world, what's going on as you're doing what you're doing, and getting that feedback from them. And I see that a lot in the businesses that I deal with as well, those that are able to ask those questions and engage not only their employees, but their other stakeholders as well. And it's there's sort of two major advantages to that. Number one, you start to find out what it is that is going on in their world so that you can help them or proactively deal with that. But the other thing is that, which is not always so obvious, is that they come up with some terrific ideas and observations that can help you collectively get together or move through this situation. So I think what I'm talking to my clients and my portfolio companies about, for me, the one word that overrides this entire process is communication. We have to be able to communicate. and to understand what's going on in everyone's world and to get their ideas and their observations. So that certainly one of the things that I'm seeing and one of the things that I'm talking to my people about. And then the other piece is, I think Ken also mentioned, it's we got to look at this as a glass half full. And if anything, I'm on my soapbox preaching that there's tremendous opportunity in this time, and I'm very careful to say that it's not opportunity to the detriment or through the exploitation of the situation or anybody, but there's tremendous opportunity to help and to give value and to expand upon the value of the services and the products that your business delivers. And those that can make that pivot and make that happen, it's my opinion, my personal opinion, that you come out on the other end exponentially better than we came into this. So it's that opportunistic, realistic opportunity is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, this could be a time of immense innovation, no doubt about it. Immense opportunity.
Michael,
Anyone have anything they'd like to contribute to the conversation?
Yeah, this is Ruby. I have something to say. I attended the Conscious Capitalism Inc.'s meeting yesterday, where it was Kip Tyndall, and he said to look at every stakeholder group and ask them, what are the top 3 to 5 things you can realistically do to keep in touch with them and help them? So just chiming in on what Del said, communication's key, but not just your employees, but all your stakeholders, and also make sure that you're asking, what do you need? How can I help you?
Yeah, without a doubt, communication, which is always an important part of organizational success, is going to be magnified during these times when we are now working in disparate locations, when normally we may not have been used to that. We're certainly all thrust into having to be comfortable with technology and communicating over technology when we may have either not have been comfortable or certainly not the preference in communication style, but this is where we are. And so as leaders, we have to learn to embrace, lead the way, and make sure that everyone who we're engaging with feels as though they are connected. And that's a principal part of being an effective leader. Another question?
Go ahead. Go ahead and ask the question if someone had one.
Oh, sure. So Del, just question around what communication tools are you using that are new and making a difference? So anything you're seeing your portfolio clients implement to leverage technology, leverage communication?
Yeah, well, Zoom is obviously, and systems like it, like we're using today, are obviously a huge advantage. Because you can not only communicate verbally, but you can also communicate visually, which I think is really an important aspect. If I can just mention one thing about that, and I've done a lot of Zoom before this crisis, and it was interesting when we started to get into this and we started to communicate more by Zoom and to have these meetings and things. I realized that Zoom is an excellent one-to-one piece of communication. So if it's you and me talking, it's excellent. It's also an excellent communication medium for one-to-many. So I can deliver a presentation or a webinar. It gets way more challenging when it's a many-to-many communication. That doesn't mean that it's impossible, and that doesn't mean you shouldn't use it, but just be aware of that, because there's actually sort of a skill set that is required to have an effective many-to-many type conversation. So the virtual and video is certainly one. The old-fashioned, just pick up the phone and have a conversation. I'm finding that more and more people are doing that. And it's interesting in this time, I think we're sort of hearkening back to the voice-to-voice. I'm actually seeing a little bit more voice-to-voice and a little less text-to-text. There's certainly, always a prevalence of text going on in this day and age, but I'm actually seeing more voice-to-voice because I think by nature we're social beings, and we like that connection and that communication. So Those are there. And then I'm also seeing somewhat of a resurgence around email and other written forms. So the social media platforms. There's a lot of communication via social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and things of that nature. So any way that that you choose to communicate, I think is a good way to communicate. The important thing is that you do. So I hope that answers the question.
That's great. Thank you. Corey,
Yeah, I was just thinking about communication, and it's an organization that I work closely with, and they're a healthcare organization with over 850 employees, but they're mostly behavioral health, serving lower to mid-income people. But because of wanting to obviously be in guidelines with the new rules and regulations and not necessarily considered to be essential as far as coming into the clinic and being present, they rapidly changed over to telehealth as their main course of interacting with their patients. And also with each other in a way is a lot more online communication than being in an office next to someone that you work closely with as a team. My main point was that, in switching over very quickly to this telehealth model, they changed processes, protocols, a variety of other things up to 4 or 5 times now already in the past 3 weeks. And so it's rapidly changing. Lots of new information is coming out. Things are working, things aren't working. And so, there has had to be a lot of communication between all 850 of these people, right? And it's not easy. And so if you're feeling like, oh, everyone, the over communication, I don't think can happen at this point, especially if you are going through a lot of changes in your organization and just in your processes and protocols and how you serve your customers. And so I think the feedback they've gotten is that they've really appreciated, that everyone is being up to date and keeping up to date on the different changes and what's going on. And so I guess my point is just don't be afraid to over communicate, but try to communicate in a very clear way and set expectations to know, hey, this is what we know right now. This might change tomorrow. This might change next week. And we will try and be as informed and caring about that as it goes. But we all have to work through this together, and we'll do our best to be in contact with you all when we do know, right? So that was just my main thought when we're talking about that.
A super great point, and I've seen that as well, where some of the companies that I'm partnering with, they're worried about over communicating because they feel like they're putting out a message and it's having to be changed or retracted, and sort of the governing thought and mindset around that is it's like we're all reading a book while it's being written, and nobody knows what chapter 6 is. And so there has to be a level of understanding and sort of a forgiveness by the organization that leaders aren't intentionally putting out information that is then changed. Everyone is responding and reacting to a very fluid environment. And I think if you go out on the proactive communication side of that and you state that to the company that, look, we're doing our best, we are putting out information as we become aware, things are changed, this is a fluid environment, we're reading the book while it's being written right along with you, you're doing your best to ease uncertainty in a time where uncertainty is amplified. And so I'm seeing that as being a proactive tool as well. And whatever communication device or portal that you use to get your message out there, I think that's an important component of it.
On that, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to step in and echo what Michael and the team are saying, and also to address McLeod's question about what communication tools you're using and what are making a difference. For one of our teams, we're using Asana and this is addressing the productivity factor as well as the communication factor. And all of these platforms are creating new systems to be able to work within the new issues. And so they've added and maybe this isn't a new thing, but our team's newly using it, sprints. So to up the productivity, there's like a weekly goal. And so finding the tools within the tools that you may already be using to also add to that communication and productivity. So we use Asana, I guess is the way you pronounce it, a productivity tool.
That's great. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to add and confirm. I A couple weeks ago, I mandated that we fire GoToMeeting because it was horrible, and we moved the whole company to Zoom. And I mandated that I didn't mandate anything. I said, hey, all internal meetings are going to be done through Microsoft Teams. And up until 2 weeks ago, of the 130 people, there were only like 8 people using Teams with video and screen share. And we now have 100% of all one-on-ones and staff meetings being done on Microsoft Teams. And if you only can do it on a phone, like, we want to see your face. And there's actually 2 reasons why I wanted to, reason one was like you need to see the physical responses of people in order to just not lose the body language, especially when you're having difficult conversations or you're trying to engage in healthy conflict. The second thing is we all get easily distracted when no one's watching. So we're multitasking. I put that on in air quotes because multitasking is doing 2 things poorly at once. And so I didn't want to lose people's focus at a time where there's a lot going on in households already. And then you've got, kind of the lack of video accountability. So I got pushed back a lot from some of the senior leaders, including the legal, who's like, we don't need no stinking video. And they were the biggest pushback, and they're reporting the best gains, because lawyers, when they're reviewing contracts with inside staff, often have some of the more difficult conversations because they're the business prevention unit sometimes. The second thing is we use Namely as our HRIS and performance management system, and we put it in place last year. It's awesome. And it provides, it's both a portal as well as your payroll system, as well as your performance management system. And we've been driving people into Namely. Last week we ran a test. We gave you a $60 Postmates gift card for the person who got the most votes for their home office setup. So people like cats on keyboards, dogs in office chairs. And we gave, each office had a winner. This week we're doing like, what new hobby are you doing that you hadn't done before? So post whatever your new hobby is. So we've got people going to Namely and posting and voting. And then we're putting things about telemedicine. If you're sick, this is what you do. And for those of you who have some kind of intranet or some kind of corporate blog, for those of you who understand how social media works, and I'm not one of them, the idea of moving your taking old content and reposting it, like you have to do that on your own internal network. Like your corporate marketing people might be doing that on your corporate website, which is a technique for social media, a technique for SEO. That's great, but you should be doing it on your internal, because you don't know when someone's going to read the message from the CEO or the message from HR or the message from your healthcare professionals or a message on a reporting update. So I'd say it's great that you get it done once, but make sure whether it's your post or someone else's post, you're constantly reposting up into the feed. So, and if people see it repetitive, there's a phrase on strategy. If you find yourself repeating your strategy too many times, do it again, right? So as leaders, I'm reminded that not everybody hears you, and if they hear you, they don't always remember you. And keeping it simple and keeping it consistent is key, especially in times of stress.
And just want to add, if you are a nonprofit organization, like an official 501c3, for a lot of these technologies and programs, check their websites or and contact the companies to see if there's a discount or even free version for you. I know Microsoft Teams has a free version if you apply correctly, and hopefully they made it easier. Google for nonprofits, there's a lot of free tools and resources for you. There's at least some discounts usually offered to nonprofit organizations to take off some of that financial burden too, especially if you have teams. So just want to make that note as well.
Another great tool for chatting and video and one-on-one, as well as many, is Skype for Business too. You can easily chat with people, and you can also do the video. So it's pretty cool and really easy to use too.
Jeff?
I really appreciated the personal touch that you added with your teams and having the little competitions and making it as fun as possible. I kind of would like to open it up. That's one of the things I'm really curious about. Or what are some of the businesses that your clients or you that you're doing within your businesses? I'm just opening it up to everyone, really. What are you doing to keep that personal connection, that a lot of companies, culture is everything. And when we're all separate, how do we maintain the culture that we have consciously through virtual happy hours or whatever that might be? What are you guys doing? Are there some unique things you're doing? And additionally, kind of part B of that question is, are you doing anything to give back to the community? We're all locked in our homes and we're not really out necessarily serving. Is there a way to serve maybe virtually in some capacity? Because I know nonprofits don't go away and service doesn't go away. Matter of fact, it's increasing in many places. So what are we doing to maintain that culture, and how are we continuing to serve the community?
Anyone have some thoughts around this?
Okay.
One of the things that I've been participating in is several local businesses to me, sole proprietors, LLCs, a whole group of women have interconnected with each other, and we're not only supporting each other with where to go find the right foods that we're looking for, or who to go get, who to support, but also in deciphering all the different things that are going on in small businesses. And people are reading documents and saying this means you need to do this from a lawyer's perspective and from a business perspective, and it just opening up communication channels. I know that you're also involved in RISE. It's like opening it up and start having a platform for people to talk and ask questions on relative to ways of sustaining their business through this time is, I think, a really important part of the leadership, because I think a lot of people are very discouraged and they are very disoriented with this because, they've moved out of their office. They no longer have any communication loops besides the ones that they're used to in their company, but expanding it to the community and the community of businesses around you to support them and to sustain them through this time is, I think, a really important part of it.
That's great. Thank you for that.
I had a quick comment too, if okay. At WeJungo, we're doing happy hours. I don't know if anyone else is doing that, but doing a 5 to 6 p.m. where we bring our own drink and we're not going to talk about work. We're just going to connect with each other and what's difficult about staying locked in your house with all your kids running around while you're trying to work. I found that that's a huge bonus because I feel like it's so easy to get disconnected. And it's like, wait, are our clients still out there? And so it's really nice to hear updates, what's going on. And we don't always have time to do that as we're doing our daily work. So that's been really huge for me, at least, to kind of stay sane. And also we would normally do a monthly team meeting. And so we've changed that to a weekly team meeting that's just a half hour, but just that quick check-in, what's on everyone's desk, what are the challenges that we're having, what's coming up, in the next week, who needs help with what. And that's really helped us as a team.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, there's definitely been an increase in trying to make what would be in-person social experiences virtual, which I think is kind of a fun challenge to find ways that you can adapt and still connect with our colleagues and our friends, for that matter, in ways that this is the best we can do right now, virtually. So
I also have heard of I've seen and I've participated too, some people are using Slack as a tool and they'll have different channels, and some will be about work, but some will just be fun, this is the joke of the day, or this is my high Q for the week, or whatever it is. And so you can just be something that small as well, where there's just opportunities to kind of just connect on a different level with the people in your organization too.
Yeah, we actually used, someone mentioned Teams. We actually created a water cooler thread, and literally just people, can add anything about their day, ask random questions. That's where we're doing our little, if someone has a birthday, we're doing 2 truths and a lie. What do we know about this person? So just using it as that chatter that you'd have during the day.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we have a small company of 11, so it's a little easier to do this. But we believe in like quick and frequent touch base. So we're actually implemented what we're just calling a pulse check, one at 10 a.m. and one at 3 p.m. And it's we want everyone to participate unless there's some other pressing need that's going to pull them away. And we're getting really great participation. You know, probably 85% are there at both meetings, and it's great. It's 20 minutes. It's like, what do you need? What do you need to get done? What sort of support do you need? What are some fires that are burning? And then at the end of the day, sort of recap and then reset for the following morning. So it's just quick 15, 20 minutes twice a day. We all join via Zoom, connect, have a couple laughs, reset, and then we go on. And it's been a great way to just keep that constant communication going virtually. So it's been really beneficial for us.
I have two thoughts I'd like to toss out, Michael. They're kind of connected. And one is kind of goes back to Ken's comment of asking people about how efficient they are. And certainly this could vary if you got 20 kids running around your house. But when we're working in an office for 8 hours a day, there's a lot of inefficiencies, a lot of conversations, a lot of interruptions, a lot of going to meetings, and a lot of things going on that when you're at home, all of a sudden you become very efficient. But trying to put that high level of efficiency across this whole 8 hours becomes a very intense thing. So I guess my first thought is I think we have to be kind of careful about how we even measure those two, because it might not be apples and apples of being at home and all by yourself focused in versus being in this other environment. And the second thought to that is structure. Is what should your day look like at home if you have the opportunity to be focused and efficient? Like, for example, I mean, how intense can you be for 4 hours straight or 8 hours straight? Versus actually structuring your day in a way that says, you know, quite honestly, maybe I can do as much work in 6 hours as I used to do in 8. So let's just set it up that way. Or I'm good for 2 hours and I need to take an hour off and go do something. I mean, whatever that may look like. But also from the idea that some people may not be very good at structuring their day. I mean, that's part of what the office does for people, automatically creates structure for unstructured people. So maybe even some training around that idea, saying, all right, how can we develop a day that will look really good, still get our work done, not be over intense and not be slacking off. So I think there's a lot of opportunity around that idea of how much structure and what does efficiency look like in this environment.
I think your comments are very valid. I've been working from home for the last 2 years as a consultant, and I do find that I get through all of my things very quickly, and then I realize, well, what am I supposed to do with the rest of my day? I didn't have 15 people walking in my office doors, so I got everything done very quickly. And it gives you the opportunity to expand your knowledge. But I think one of the things that is coming in this opportunity is with our kids being home, I'm actually getting things sent to me about how to help them manage their time and help them be productive, because certainly they're not getting 6 hours worth of work to do from the school. And I'm finding myself in reviewing those that there's things that I could learn from that as well. So there's a lot of time management communications going around, both from the schools as well as other companies, that is definitely worth the read and time to consider, because then we can spend a little bit more time being active and healthy and going for walks and things like that, which is definitely far better for us.
I do believe that this experience is going to reinvent the way we look at the workday. I think it's going to categorically shift from this moment going forward, and what we do with our 8 hours per day when we show up to an office. I think it's going to look very different.
I'm curious if there's anyone who's in an industry who a lot of employees can't work from home, who are still on the front lines, or who are still in the stores or the workshops or whatever. What are some things you've seen or done or have been able to do to support them?
Well, I can speak. Elisa, did you?
Yeah, I thought I would just share with you. I work, I'm the head of a nonprofit organization that is binational. We do a lot of work here across the border, San Diego, Tijuana, and Mexicali. And of course, as you've probably heard, the border is closed. Yesterday, the governor of Baja California made the pronouncement that people will be stopped by the police if they're out in the streets. So it's a little more restrictive than it is up here in San Diego. But our two primary program areas, we do an immersive learning program with students, and that's here in San Diego, also across the border. We also work in Mexico City, Guatemala, Costa Rica, various places. And of course, all of that travel has completely stopped. So one of the things that we're looking at is obviously improving our ability to do things online, such as this, with some of the students and some development of that kind of curriculum. And that's more obvious to me. But what's not obvious to me is we run one of our main programs on the Mexican side is a microfinance program with solidarity groups that are returning payments of small loans. And of course, the methodology itself is based around group meetings. And so until yesterday, we had the groups sort of not really gathering, but making their payments to their treasurers that were then going and doing deposits into the bank. But now we're not sure what will happen if people aren't supposed to be in the street. So I think a lot of this is really helpful, the idea of communication. Now, another sort of caveat there is that the people we work with don't have computers, and they do generally have smartphones, which is interesting that does exist. And most people in our communities are on WhatsApp. So I probably need to be more able to work with that technology. We are trying to push out information to people about keeping them safe, but I think one thing for this group maybe to just consider is also people of lower income. A lot of the students in our programs don't have Wi-Fi at home. So we're trying to think, well, how can we support those folks, that population in this time? Seems like smartphones might be the way. Also, if anyone in this group has any ideas, we're thinking of a moratorium on the loan payments, which may just happen anyway, but actually kind of declaring it in solidarity with the groups. And then, of course, we have to figure out how to weather the lack of income from lack of loan payments. So anyway, I've said a lot, but I really think that there needs to be something addressing kind of the inequality of access to even just the basic technologies. I don't have any answers, but those are the things that I'm thinking about.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. Does anyone have any thoughts around the idea of access, for the impact of this for low-income folks?
This is Michelle from San Diego. I work at hospice care. So we definitely have staff every day in the front line working in the homes and in the hospitals to take care of our patients, including pediatrics. And what I do with both of my teams, so I run the pediatric program and our palliative care. And I have a team connection meeting by Zoom every day with both of my teams. We talk about our patients, but we also provide time to just talk about how everybody's doing. We share stories. We share videos of puppies and animals giving each other hugs. We tell jokes when it's appropriate. So to keep the mood lightened, but I think it's the most important thing is to stay connected. Even if you have to be socially distant, doesn't mean you have to be completely isolated from one another. And our leadership team meets here every day, and they also put out a newsletter every day for staff.
Yeah, Corey, I'll throw it out there. This is Larry Kesslin from Spire, used to be Corporate Alliance in San Diego, and I run a community for business leaders that used to be face-to-face. And until about 2.5 weeks ago, we have this beautiful facility we can't use. So I stood up We stand up a daily Zoom call Monday through Thursday. Mondays and Wednesdays, we're letting members educate each other, and Tuesdays and Thursdays are just open forums, because I do believe that staying connected is going to be the most important thing for us. Everybody talked about downtime and less work or time when you work. As an entrepreneur, I've been one for 27 plus years. This is a time when it's really confusing for me personally. Yes, I do have 2 children. My daughter's home from college. She's almost 20. I have an 18-year-old who's going to be home in a week or so, and I want to spend quality time with them. But at the end of the day, I feel very responsible to the business that I run, and I could work all day, every day. So finding that balance is not easy. So I'm just being very candid. It's not. I lived through 2001 in New York City. I was living in New York when the towers came down, all of that. But this is different. And a lot of people we're talking to are not sure exactly what's going to happen. So I'll agree that bringing people together on a regular basis is really, really important.
Yeah, again, sort of just echoing this idea of like it is times of uncertainty. So what do we do to help ourselves feel more certain when that is probably something we're all reaching for, while at the same time leading others in our organizations to feel connected and have some sense of, it's going to be okay. Like that's part of our responsibilities as leaders.
Agreed. Still a lot of stuff out of our control, a lot of stuff in our control, but there's a whole lot of stuff that's out of our control at this point, and just putting it in the hands of God or whoever you believe in.
Right.
We're at one of those points in our lives, I believe. So
as we sort of wind down, is there any other specific topic that anyone would like to spin around this great group?
Hey, Dean. Just want to reiterate what Larry said, and I love the idea of the Zoom meetings. Also, Corey has demonstrated her leadership and is aware of a network that's being created, if you will. It's basically identified as the San Diego Business Nonprofit Crisis Support Network, and it's an open network for content, tools, best practices, checklists. And the good news is, and I heard from many of your voices, communication is key. Holy cow, we've got the Public Relations Society of America, the San Diego chapter, already vetting information that's on this, and this their sweet spot. It's communication and communication relationships with all stakeholders. So Corey has the link to the actual website. We've had over 120 some people already visit it. It got up and going within 48 hours. And it's led by a wonderful lady who's a retired Marine who absolutely kicks butt, and she doesn't mess around. She's working 4 hours a day to vet this website. So back to linkages and ways that we can all help. We're sitting at our home. There's an incredible knowledge pool that's right here in our home offices. And here is a way that we can connect with each other and help and work from home. So Corey has the basic information and the link.
Yes, it's linked in the chat. So if you guys want it, it's there, and then we'll be continuing to share it out in our communication as well, so people know where to go.
Great. Well, is there any other sort of open items or pressing questions or needs we want to talk about before we wind down?
Hi,
I'd be curious. Go ahead. Go ahead. Please go.
Hi, this is Maria Teresa. I have my own business, but I also work for a nonprofit organization called Serving Seniors. And so we have half of our team that's out in the field delivering hot foods to seniors in different buildings throughout San Diego County. And because of the significant growth in our company and the needs to be able to deliver more meals, we've really kind of gotten into a situation where we bought more vehicles, more trucks, but we're at a deficit of hiring truck drivers for temporary work. And a lot of the problems with what they're challenged with is, basically having reduced benefit from their unemployment because they'll be receiving payment compensation from us. So we're trying to find people to work for us, but the thing is, it's just a little bit of a challenge since people don't really want to be out there exposing themselves in the field to 100 plus people a day. So I don't know if other people are experiencing these type of recruiting challenges, but that's something that we're trying to look into a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm seeing that with a few of the organizations I support that are in the construction space. So they're deemed essential business, but there's this, I guess you could call it philosophical debate where, just because you can go to work, should you go to work? And they're struggling with that. And while they have employees who are ready to go, they have an ultimate responsibility for ensuring that their employees are safe. And again, just because they can, should they? And so I've seen them wrestle with this question and take it to heart, because they also don't want to shut down their business that they built for the last 30 years. So they're put in a very tough position where that is not work that you can do from home. You need to be out and about, and you need to be in the world, and there's no other way around it. So I've seen that struggle in that industry in particular.
Yeah, I would just add to that, Maria Teresa, because I've got a couple of businesses that are considered essential, and some of them that are actually need to go into homes to do some things that are essential in certain homes. And one of the things that we have found that has been as comforting as possible in this crazy, totally uncomfortable situation is to completely outline and document and make sure that everybody understands what your procedures are. Mm-hmm. And what you are doing to protect not only the people that work for you, but to protect the people that they're going to see. And it's, getting very, very detailed and very specific about how you're doing what you're doing. And then at that point, it's really up to the individual to feel whether or not that is consistent with their level of comfort in doing that. But if you're looking to attract people to do the work necessary that you need to do, that's one suggestion that I would have for you, is to establish those procedures and that documentation so that there's as much a degree of comfort as you can possibly give to those that are working and those that they're providing the service to.
Yeah, that's great. That's great feedback. Well, we've reached the hour mark, and so I want to make sure we're being mindful of everyone's time. Really appreciate everyone contributing, listening, adding content and value to the conversation. It is our hope that this was meaningful and valuable for you as well. And Corey, if there's anything you want to close out with, that would be great.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael, for guiding us through this, and again for everyone's contribution. I guess it would be helpful to know if you found this meaningful for you all and useful, and if you'd like to continue this at some cadence, with CCSD and others in this group. And if so, let us know, and we can maybe hopefully make these more frequent if it is beneficial. So just don't hesitate to reach out to us at any time, and we will try and be in our best communication with all of you too, of what's available and a variety of different resources that we are coming across that could be supportive to nonprofits, for-profits, solopreneurs, anyone, employees, employers, et cetera, that we come across that we think could be useful. So hopefully you find that helpful as well. But if there is something that we aren't sharing or that you're not getting or you wish you could learn more about, please do let us know so we do know, and we can hopefully figure out a way to support you in finding that information. But besides that, thank you all. I hope you all stay safe, be well, find some calm, and know that we are a community and in it together. And so let's lean on each other and support each other how we can. Thank you.